Welcome to Chew the Chat podcast.
Well, thank you for your time today, Joe.
Yeah, no worries.
Here
my
we
pleasure.
go. Here we go. Welcome to Chew the Chat podcast. Joe Waszczyszyn.
Waszczyszyn.
Joe Waszczyszyn. Welcome to Chew the Chat podcast. Joe Waszczyszyn.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you so much. Now, I've been watching you, as we all watch each other these days, through little thumbnails in little black rectangles.
Yep.
Although that might be changing now, which would be cool.
Yeah.
But you've done something extraordinary.
Yep. Uncommon amongst the uncommon, if you follow David Goggins.
As we do, yeah.
Yeah.
The beast, David Goggins. So you've just done the 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours.
Yeah.
For charity.
Yep.
What's it done for your body, your mind, your heart, your soul? Take us through it. And for viewers, for listeners, you're a super fit, healthy PT. You've got a background in that. So how did you arrive at wanting to do this? Take us through it, and then obviously we'll get into what it was like.
Oh, how did we get here? So last year I was introduced to Goggins. I met my partner towards I can't remember the dates with the lockdowns and things. And as well today I am still pretty foggy, having done that just at the weekend. So he introduced me to the book. He was already mad about Goggins as soon as we met. So I listened to the audio book and then got into him a bit on Instagram and stuff like that. And so it started from there. And then I saw that challenge, that 4x4x48, quite a while ago now. And I mentioned it to Dan, my partner. And he was like, no, we're not doing that. And I thought, because I was 36 this year, I thought, maybe I could make my own one. I could do 3 miles every 3 hours for 36 hours. I thought that's pretty cool. I could end my 36th year on that. I thought, I'm just going to be disappointed I didn't do the Goggins one. Yeah. And then we got a couple of friends and they said, we're thinking about doing this. What do you reckon? I said, it has been on my mind. So we set a date and away we went. Yeah. So
what was the training like for it then? And how did you prepare? How do you prepare?
Yeah, exactly. That was a question that we asked ourselves. I did twice. I did 4 miles, had a 3-hour break, and then went back and did another 4 miles. And you just feel like you're hanging around and wasting a day, really. I went and did the second 4 miles. Thought, my legs feel like they've ran 8 miles now. That's what it felt like. And I hadn't been doing that much running at that point. And then once we'd decided and we'd set a date, I just thought, how do you train for that? And we just thought, actually, we're just going to waste our time a bit training for that. So we just set our running distance. Whenever we went out for a run, we chose 4 miles, and that's what we did. And that was all we did. But we kept to 4 miles consistent, 5 days a week, and got really comfortable with that distance. Yeah. Ran it as fast, probably about as fast as I could. Go out running first thing, which is new to me, really. But going as fast as we could, putting more gradient in than we knew we were going to need on the weekend. And that was the most preparation we did.
Right. Okay. And it's Goggins himself, because I haven't read his book. I've just listened to many different podcasts of his.
Yeah.
And I did see stuff come up where globally it was, let's do the 4-4-48.
Yeah. So he does he advertises that like once a year. Once a year, let's all get out and do this. So I think that's probably why we got a couple of replies. Stay hard, because because there probably weren't very many people doing it that weekend. It was a couple of months back now, I think. Right. And because he actually stepped up, and there was a big amount that he donated to charity. He broke it down a bit, and there was a bit more to that challenge that he did, but we just stuck 4x4x48. He actually says you don't have to run it, you can just do anything. Anything for 40. He says if you can't run it, just do something for about 45 minutes every 4 hours for those 48 hours, which we actually walked 3 of them. I was broken.
So does he have anything laid out? Can you go on his website and he sort of gives any pointers on any kind of training or any kind of anything, or is it just get up and get on with it? Like
you need to listen to the book, really. The book's amazing. So, and the audio book, which is quite apt because obviously this is audio, but the audio book is good because it's there's a different guy reading it, right, but Goggins is in the studio with him while he's recording the audiobook.
Okay.
So at the end of every chapter, they have a little bit of a debrief, or sometimes Goggins interjects a bit. So it's
that's
awesome
interesting.
Yeah, it's awesome on an audiobook.
Yeah, because like I say, I've listened to him on lots of podcasts, namely Rogan. He's been on there several times, and they always get in deep, 3 hours plus of. And his story's fascinating, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, big background he's got there.
Yeah, and his drive is, you know, he just gets on with it. For people at home, he does Instagram videos where he's out running, and I think he must have someone, his partner or someone, just filming him at the side, and he's just getting the fuck on with it. Yeah. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
So, when you were coming up to the weekend then to do this, what was the anxiety like? What was the, you know, were you thinking about blisters? Were you thinking about, did you just not know what to expect? Just go in and see what happens?
Well, practically we'd thought, right, we're going to need quite a lot of kit because you go for a run, you come back, you're sweaty. So we thought about that. We thought about food. No amount of preparation, I don't think, could have prepared me for how horrendous it actually was.
Wow.
I wasn't really that worried before it started. And then we started at 4 p.m. I suppose it's probably easier to take you through it chronologically. So the first one was at 4 p.m. So just to be clear to anyone who's listening, you run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. So the first one we chose 4 p.m. So you run in from 4 till 4:45, and then you've got from 4:45 p.m. until 8 p.m. to do whatever you need to do before the next one. So the routine we got into was you get back about 4:45 or after 45 minutes. You've got 15 minutes to change your kit, get something comfortable on, and then you've got 2.5 clean hours to do whatever you need to do, whether that's sleep, eat. You need to eat quite close to the start of your break, so it's got time to digest before the next one. So where did it all start to go wrong? 4 p.m. was okay. And the experience was different for the other guys. Obviously, I'm here chatting to you, and I'm sure some of what went on with them will creep into this chat, but I'll try and keep it a little bit to my experience, because theirs is very personal to them.
Okay.
And they might have stuff in their head that they haven't shared with me.
Right.
But I definitely know what went on in my head. So 4 p.m, relatively straightforward. A close friend of mine, she chose my charity, St Barnabas Hospice, so she came to see us off, which was a real privilege. Then 8 p.m. came, that was okay. 10 p.m. came, 8. Then 12 midnight, that came, that wasn't too bad. 4 a.m. was the first one, running in the dark. I mean, I've done winter training, trained in the dark, but 4 a.m. running along the bypass outside Bourne somewhere, I was like, right, I've got to walk a bit now. So like walking along Bourne bypass, crying at 4 o'clock in the morning. That was the first low point.
Wow.
And then after that, I struggled to eat anything. I struggled to eat at all over the whole thing.
So, but for me, from 8 to 12, I mean, 4 o'clock, 8 o'clock, there's a bit of novelty. It's living hours as well. They're the hours that you might be running anyway.
Yep.
Then you get in, you know, it's nearly 9. Are you trying to eat at that point, or are you resting? Is there an idea to get to sleep before the 12 o'clock one? Starts to turn a bit like, whoa, we're going running in the middle of the night.
Yeah, napping was definitely the aim of the game. But as I mentioned to you before, I've suffered with anxiety in the past. I don't talk about it a lot. My job is personal training and coaching. So it's not something I share with a lot of people who I come into contact with, because my belief is that I'm strong and I want to show these people. That's not to say that I wouldn't say, if someone's saying something to me and I know that I can empathise because of my experience, I might share something to do with panic attacks or things like that with my clients. But for me, it's important. They're not there. They might feel like they want to offer me advice, and that's not what I'm there to do. I'm there to support them. So it's a fine line. It's not something I'm ashamed of. And if someone wants to know more, I'll tell them. But as part of my integrity, which is very personal to me, I don't share it a lot with my clients. But so this some people that are listening to this that know me, it might surprise them. Yeah. So anxiety started taking over, which I knew it would, because sleep deprivation. I know that when I'm tired, it's worse. The easiest way to describe it is probably, you know, if you've had a hangover, sometimes you can feel a bit like unsure about decisions and things.
Oh, the horrors.
Yeah, and I think that's because of, a lot of that is because of the lack of sleep. Because if you've had a few drinks, perhaps you don't sleep as well, and as the mix of the alcohol and not sleeping so well, I think makes that come together anyway. So I just felt like I got a hangover all night without having had any of the fun of a couple of drinks, and so that started kicking in. So when I got back at 4 a.m. and I'd had my few tears on the bypass, I get in like really, really shivering, which is something that I link with anxiety, which is having too much adrenaline in when you're in that fight or flight. Then the pressure of thinking, right, I really need to get some kip. It's 4:45 in the morning. I've got to run again at 8 and I haven't eaten. My head was just going over and over thinking, well, how can I run if I haven't eaten? How can I run if I haven't slept? What's this going to be like in 24 hours time when I got to do this all over again? It was.
So that point there, it's real. It gets real for you.
Yeah. Yeah. But the absolute low point was 11:30 on the Saturday night. That was horrendous. I was ready to give up. I was just sat there with Dan saying, it doesn't matter. I said, if I can't eat and I can't sleep, I can't carry on with this. I said, I feel this is as worse as I'm prepared to feel. I said, I'll just have to stop. And I can confidently say that I'm not going to regret stopping, because I don't think I need to make myself feel any worse than I feel. So we made the decision to walk. We walked the midnight, we walked the 4 a.m. and then ran the 8 and the 12 to finish.
So back to the 4 a.m., the first 4 a.m., which is, I guess, Saturday morning, is it? Did you set out on the Friday 4 p.m., then you did the 8 p.m., then the 12 p.m.
Yeah.
The 4 p.m., you're really hitting the first real low. You haven't eaten any. You've not managed to eat anything really.
Not much. It got to the point where when you're taking a tablet, you take a tablet and you take a swig of water. That's how I was trying to get food in.
Cool.
But I've got to say that I don't want that to come across as something heroic. Like, I was annoyed that I couldn't eat. I knew and the physiology. I think that's the right word. The physiology of it is simple. Is my understanding is that when you're that anxious and you're in that fight or flight, you get a dry mouth, your digestive system makes you feel sick, might make you feel like you need to go to the loo. It's put you in fight or flight, and I felt like I was stuck in it and I couldn't eat. It's like being the most nervous you can ever be. You wouldn't want to eat at that time, would you?
Of course, yeah. So how about the gang then? So there's 4 of you?
Yeah.
As a core group?
Yeah.
How was everybody else coping? There's 2 females, 2 guys.
Yeah.
What was like the communal energy like, and who was leading? And were people leading at different times and being the kind of propping people up? And how did that work? What was the dynamics there? Especially at that 4 a.m. when it starts to turn a little bit.
Yeah, it was a very individual thing.
Okay.
But I couldn't have done it without the support. The team were great, but it was also quite. I didn't want how I was feeling to be on them too much.
Okay.
So I tried to keep a little bit closed away, try not to share too much. I mean, I'm thinking now, it's hard to remember because I was so tired. There was definitely a feeling of togetherness. I couldn't tell you exactly what was going on in their minds because they probably didn't share it because they saw how much I was suffering. I felt like I suffered the most. I felt like I was mentally the weakest. I can't speak on behalf of them, but I was certainly grateful for their support, and also coming out the other side, how much I feel I've learned, because going into it, even consider I was going to learn anything about myself. And I've come away from it having learned some lessons. So.
You see, that's what would put me off in the first place. I say put me off, it would be the thing that struck me immediately if it was proposed to me to do this. Because I've come to the conclusion in my life, with my training, certainly with physical exertion, when you do hit those levels of, you know, the red line, the point of like, fucking hell, is this me? This is who I am. You know, can I do this? And I'm not talking in a macho way. I just mean the last 3 press-ups of the set are always the ones, aren't they? Where you could just stop and you keep moving, or you stop or you keep moving, and you just discover that, like, in those darkest moments, there's something happens with resolve, with character, that you learn, I don't know, something quite pure about yourself.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean about those last 3 press-ups and then being a dark moment. Dark doesn't seem to even...
No, I'm not correlating it with what you're doing. But
before the challenge, I would be right there with you.
Yes.
After the challenge, I'm like, I can't even believe where I went to.
But you as a person coming out the back end, which we will get to, you know, that kind of learning, that kind of introspection, that kind of a journey, a pilgrimage, literally, that's amazing. That's an amazing thing. Over time, the character that you've had to use, surely that's something that that is going to underpin a lot of your future, knowing that you did that and you could do that, and you managed it in those dark moments. You carried on. Yeah,
and where was it? It was about, it all blurs a little bit, but Saturday afternoon. One of the guys, he said to me, he said, "Oh, do you think you'll learn something about yourself from this? What do you think you'll learn?" I said, "Yeah, that's an interesting question." I said, "Let's have a debrief. Ask me that again at the end of all of this." And I said, because I think that's going to be something. So we'd had a few supporters, a few people had come and cheered us on. But we made a point, once everyone had gone, the 4 of us got together, stood together, and had this little debrief. And we went round and said, what have you learned? What have you found out? And before I went and did this, I would have said, I'd heard a lot of people tell me I was hard on myself and that I was too hard on myself. And I know that I try to be a bit tough to get things done, but this made me realise I put far too much pressure on myself, and I wouldn't have even thought before. So that's one of the things I learned, because I was looking so far ahead. There was 12 runs to do. It was broken down into 12. And I was panicking about 10, 11 and 12 when I was on number 4. Well, anything could have happened between that amount of time. Someone could have gone over on their ankle. We could have had to walk all of the others. But I was so worried about all of these unknown things. And I really didn't need to be. It was exhausting. And I'm going to really try hard to not let myself be so exhausted about something so far away, when all we needed to concentrate on, or I should have been concentrating on, was getting through the next one. I only needed to decide at 3:30 in the morning whether I was getting ready for a walk or a run. Whereas I was thinking, what if I can't finish this event and I let all these guys down?
Yeah.
I was so far ahead, and that was exhausting. And I do that all day, every day, normally.
Oh, wow. So that really is a powerful insight then, because that, and I'm sure we'll come back to the anxiety later on in the conversation, but for that, that anxiety we talk often on this podcast about the unknown, and how sometimes when we can kind of frame ourselves and be unsure of what is behind a door, and not ever go through the door. And when we close ourselves off sometimes, we that learning, that kind of the scary fear that you face when you go through the door and you find out what's in there, whatever it is. When you're a kid, you jump off the top board. I remember that vividly when I was a kid, everyone jumping off the top board, and I was like, excuses. Eventually did it, straight back up and did it again, and then it kind of lends itself to other things in your life. Yeah,
I'm not sure I ever want to feel how I felt at the weekend ever again.
No, I bet.
I didn't expect to feel that way during it. Yeah, and I'm not sure I'll ever seek anything out that might make me feel like that again. I think I'll just be grateful for the stuff. I think, I did that training session, like them press ups.
Yes.
I'm going to enjoy them press ups, those last 3 dark press ups, a whole lot more. I think this is as much as I need to challenge myself.
Well, that's great though, isn't it? That kind of takes you full circle. That's amazing. So on the Saturday morning then, from you get out at
making
8,
me feel queasy just talking about it.
At 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
You've had that difficult. You've kept it kind of to yourself, pretty much. It sounds like it gets to 8 o'clock. You're going out again. Did you say you walk that one?
We walked the 8 a.m. The physical symptoms inside. So inside the flat, I'm shivering is one of the big things for me. If I'm worrying, I'm pretty sure it's from an extra surge of adrenaline that your body's trying to get rid of. Mm-hmm. I've already mentioned fight or flight. I read it somewhere the other day. I don't remember exactly how it was, but to try and describe. So Dan was very good with the anxiety. The other couple I was with, they'd never really experienced or been close to someone that suffers in that way. I also think the word anxiety gets thrown around quite a lot. Mental health is almost a buzz topic at the moment. Can seem that way. And I'm just trying to think. The first time I ever had any counselling or any therapy was when I was about in my early 20s, maybe about 23 was my first experience of any support with that kind of thing. And it's something I've always dipped in and out of through my adult life. I'd say over the last 12 months, it's been worse than it has.
Understandably.
Understandably. And I won't be shy to go and get a bit of help. It was interesting, I thought, spending that period of time with a couple of people that had never actually been that close. Like, I've got friends and family that know how I am and know how I get like. So it's interesting being with a couple of people that kind of hadn't. For them to learn about it. Can't remember what the question was now.
You're still recovering. So 8 o'clock you're walking.
Oh yes,
Saturday
8
morning.
o'clock we're walking. So before we go out, I don't think I was crying at that point, but like really shivering, really feeling like I couldn't really do anything, but managed to get dressed. I think before the 8 a.m. one, I think I was actually just sat on the bathroom floor with my head in my hands, just not knowing what to do with myself, worried that I was going to be sick. I'm always quite scared of being sick. Which apparently is quite a common thing. But I have to remind myself, no one likes being sick.
No, nobody. No, God, no. I like the bit when it finishes. You know, that last one. I think that was the last one. Oh.
And then you do feel a bit better after.
Yeah.
So I was in a right state and like, right, well, we'll just walk. And to just hear that these guys were genuinely okay, that we were going to get out and do our 4 miles at whatever pace we needed.
There'd been music to their ears. We're just going to walk.
I know, but in my head, I'm letting everyone down at this stage.
Yeah.
But I'm not.
No,
like,
God, no.
I wouldn't have said that to anyone else. If someone else had been injured or couldn't do it, I'd be like, oh yeah, we'll do whatever we need to get through. But the voice in my head, the demons of the night, as they became known during this thing. Yeah, the night time just make things.
So that walking then at 8 a.m.
Yeah, felt great.
And you kind of recognising, everybody's cool and it's fine. And when you get back from that one, do you feel a bit better then? Do you feel a bit more collected?
I think I managed to eat a little bit then. Just a few little, hardly great nutrition, but when you can't eat anything that you can get in is good, isn't it? So I think I had a few cookies, maybe a cup of tea, a bit of malt loaf at that point. I think that's probably the most I ate over the weekend. I think I might have had an apple as well, some watermelon or something. We've got all sorts knocking around. And then the day ones, we ran the rest of those day ones until, the next one that we walked was, I think, the midnight one.
And that would have been Saturday turning to Sunday.
Yeah, that's right. So we walked midnight and 4 a.m. on Sunday and then finished the last 2 with runs.
So when you come to the nighttime runs, Saturday / Sunday, having done them Friday to Saturday, how did you feel approaching those this time? Was the body starting to show itself a bit, or were you physically okay?
I don't want to say I was lucky that physically I was okay, because it's not luck, is it? I do a lot of running normally anyway.
As you've alluded to though, Joe, with the people who follow you and your clients and people you've trained over the years, probably saw you doing this and thought, she's going to smash the hell out of that. She's built from marble, man. She's solid as a rock. Yeah. She's always on it. And it'd be really interesting, as you've said, for them to hear that. But that doesn't necessarily mean the body always holds up. So maybe, no. You're saying you're lucky. I don't know.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of running over the last 12 months, so I was kind of as best prepared. I mean, I haven't been doing a huge amount of conditioning with the gyms being shut, but yeah, physically really surprised and really proud of my body for what it withheld. I think I'll lose a toenail on this left foot. If you follow Goggins, that's nothing. His feet, oh my gosh, the pictures that he's got on his Instagram. So yeah, physically, yeah, I feel fine. I mean, I felt worse after other runs than this. Mm-hmm. So yeah, physically, really, really pleased with the nick that this body's in. So that's good. And yeah, I feel tired. Like even talking to you now, I don't feel as sharp as what I normally do. Proud of the muscles and the joints but ready for a sports massage when they all open back up. That's for sure.
Yes. So when you had got through the Sunday then, and you come to the last run. What time was the last run on the Sunday?
12 noon.
12 noon.
By this point, it's Dan's birthday as well.
Oh, awesome. Happy birthday, Dan. Belatedly.
The last one's 12 noon. So we had one other person joined us for that run. And yeah, a few supporters as well saw us off and then saw us back. Not as many tears as I'd have thought. If my close friend had been there that chose the charity for me, there'd have been a lot more tears. But
bless you.
But yeah, it's probably good that I saved my energy for recovering, not crying.
And what was the emotion then? Were you kind of relieved, like you say, proud, kind of ready for it to be over, I guess, as well? Sad, maybe?
I think I've finished other events and been more emotional. I think once we'd done the walk at 12 and 4, which I'd just like to say, the other two guys, the other couple we were with, they'd got their Bergens on at this point, and we were pacing out. We did the 4 miles in just over an hour, so we were a brisk walk. But once I'd got through the 12 and the 12 a.m. and the 4 a.m. on the Sunday, I knew I was going to finish. So I think there wasn't a huge amount of relief at the end because I'd already finished it.
That darkest place you've been through.
I'd been past it, yeah. So I knew I was doing it then. There was no doubt. I couldn't pinpoint exactly where that changed, but I was already there. So the relief at the end wasn't as much. It was spread out over the last sort of 8 hours, I'd say.
And also, you're doing this for charity for St Barnabas, and I'm imagining you're able to see money's going in and people are contributing, and that must lift you as well and kind of give you a sense of, real achievement and pride.
Yeah, even so, we only made the Just Giving pages about a week ago. So even just seeing like the first sort of 500 quid going in, like before the event started, we better be doing this. This is actually happening. But yeah, as the money's going in round the 48 hours, I mean, that really felt like we were doing something special. I even still got donations coming in now.
Amazing,
I just got 30 quid as I got out the car now.
We'll link it in at the bottom of this video as well.
Brilliant. Thank you.
We will do. And that's for St Barnabas. And that, as you said, it's a special thing for you. So when you're done and everybody goes home and you have that nice moment and you share your experience or you share what you think you've learned and you get home, when are you actually able to sleep? When does your body say, oh, I can sleep or I can rest? Or
so what did we do? So it was Dan's birthday. So lunchtime. So what time did we finish? We finished at 12:45. So we had a nice cup of tea. I'd actually managed to eat breakfast on that Sunday morning, so it was starting to ease off a bit once the sun had come up on the Sunday. Managed a roast dinner late Sunday afternoon, then had a 2-hour nap, which felt absolutely horrendous after that.
Really?
Yeah. But then slept pretty normally on Sunday night. I'd been through the worst of this, and that's what's quite interesting, because like today I feel pretty fresh. Physically I'm not sore, just my one sore toe. And I think I knew that I've been through the toughest bit. Maybe if the other guys, and I'm sure they'll tell me or I'll find out, if they might actually be feeling worse than I am today, but I felt like mine was really on the experience of it. Was where the tough part was. So it's kind of staggered, I suppose, is the best way to put it.
When I spoke to you yesterday, when we were putting this together, you'd said that it was a kind of a jet lag kind of a day yesterday. Yeah,
it is. And like this morning, I fancied chicken for breakfast at like 10 o'clock. I was like, I didn't normally eat chicken at 10 o'clock. I was like, it's obviously body craving different things that it needs to recover. But yeah, that feeling of jet lag. But do you get that with jet lag with meals as well?
I'm strange. It depends what I'm doing. I tend to not eat till later in the day anyway for a while now. So what I eat could be anything, if it depends what happens at night. I mean, we try and get in bed early. The kids are crazy, so it's always a bit of a mad one. But no, I mean, it's fascinating to see that happen, and having known about it through Goggins and seeing these kinds of things happen further afield, to see you guys doing it was like, wow, that's amazing, because it's no mean feat. As I was saying to you before we came in the studio, Joe, the idea when I managed to get up a couple of days a week just at 5:30 to go out and train. That was cold this morning. It was like -4 or something, it felt like. And I thought about you guys, and I thought, God, imagine I can get in at 1:45 and you're shot and spent and knackered and all the things you've talked about, maybe you haven't eaten, and then you've got to get up and do it again.
Yeah. I think one of the important things to remember is that you've, and one of the reasons we didn't do any like staggered training, like, let's do 3-4 milers today, is that you've allocated, that's all you're doing that weekend. So from Friday at 4 to Sunday, there wasn't anything else we were doing. We were just getting in, getting changed, recuperate, eat, sleep, then go back out. I mean, that would have been the ideal. Obviously, the eating and sleeping wasn't great for me because I was too pent up to sleep sometimes. But yeah, that you, when you do it, you haven't got anything else to do. There's no kids there to look after. We got the puppy to be looked after somewhere else. That is all you're doing for that period of time. So it's not like you're trying to wedge any work in or anything. That's all you're devoted to that weekend. But yeah, it was thoroughly unpleasant feelings, especially overnight. I've never felt that bad in my whole life. And this is great to sit here and talk about it. What are we, 48 hours on? 48 hours on. We just finished, didn't we, two days ago? So yeah, it's a real privilege and a pleasure, and to be able to document it so close. You'll be sat in an armchair one day and you can watch this. Hey, grandkids, look what we did. Yeah. Or when I think about doing it a second time, I just remind myself. Well, you did say about 15 minutes ago, you will never do anything like this again, and I thought, you might do. I know. You might well do. I like a 10K distance, and I like the half marathon distance. Okay. I trained for I followed a training plan and did a half marathon once, and I really enjoyed that. Okay. Yeah. How long ago was that, and where did you run, and what was that like, training for that? That was 2 years ago now. I feel like I've lost track of years now. We've just missed one, but I think it was 2 years ago. We literally have just had a strange block of time happen. It's like a bank holiday year. It's like, like when but without the beer garden. Yeah. You spend the when you have a week when there's a bank holiday, you spend all week thinking you've lost a day. Yeah. You spend all this year feeling like we've lost a year. Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? So I've forgotten the question again. What was it? Training half for marathon. Yeah, I followed a training plan actually, and that's probably the closest I have got to the experience of this one. Being out on runs, pushing yourself, crying and running. I did quite a lot of crying, but crying and running at the same time is. Yeah, you learn stuff about yourself when you're out doing runs that you don't want to be doing. And yeah, I think it was about 3 or 4 months, the training plan. Did it, and I just wanted to get sub 2 hours. And if I could have got closer to 1:45, I said to myself I'd be dead chuffed. And yeah, I got 1 hour 50, I think. Oh, good on you. Wow. Yeah, I was really pleased with that. And I felt a real sense of achievement after that. And have you, and obviously your fitness, in fact, let's go back a little bit. So you're a PT, you're a fitness trainer, you are, I think I first came across you in a pump class. Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah, Les Mills. Yeah. My wife was like, you've got to come to this class. It is just, you won't believe it. And she's telling me the weights that I was like, fucking Jesus, balance and poise and Yeah.
Just continuation of movement all the time. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of let's go back a little bit. So you mentioned in your early 20s was when you kind of first sought out to speak to somebody maybe about anxiety.
Yeah.
Is that something that you'd been living with prior to that moment? Were you aware that you had anxiety? What was it like growing up? You know, what do you think was that brought that on?
I'm just trying. I mean, I've always been a worrier. It's hard to pinpoint where it starts, isn't it? If I think back to my earliest memory, and this story my mum will vouch for, and it shows how far back it goes. There was one school trip that I was so worried and nervous about going on this school trip. I was worried that I was going to get travel sick. I was worried about this is junior school. I was worried about the school trip. I was worried about the day out or whatever it was. I can't remember what the trip was. I was so worried about it. I was sick before I even went on the bus, and I was probably worrying about getting travel sick. And I know that from my memory, I know I would have been sick, and then I'd have felt better and I'd have enjoyed the day. So that's my earliest memory of worrying. But there's quite a few ways of treating these things, isn't there? And I think some therapies go right back to try and work out how or why it started. And then the only treatment I suppose I've had when I first had treatment then was treatment, is that the right word? I'm not sure. Was cognitive behavioural therapy, which looks at how do you make this situation okay. It doesn't go back and dig. And I'm not overly bothered about digging right back into like the childhood or years and years behind. I'm quite keen to just keep looking forward, thinking about how do I manage this now going forward. Just looking for tools like coping mechanisms. So the CBT looks at, right, well, what's happening now? What do you need to do in that moment to get through that moment? Which has, in my experience, made those therapies kind of shorter, as opposed to like delving back into maybe my unconscious mind and not knowing where, because I couldn't really tell you where it all stems from. I don't know whether it's nature or nurture, because I think that's an argument. I've heard anxiety described as a learnt behaviour before. I'm not sure how true that is.
Yeah, I think there's lots of different ways, and it's interesting. I mean, a lot of conversation that we have on the podcast is with my fascination with childhood, because so many things happen to us subconsciously, subliminally, you know, in the most simple of ways as well, you know, just simple security, love, nurture, just all those simple things that seem to lend themselves, if they're out of line, if they're out of kilter, somehow, some way, the trajectory can be set where we're just not quite tuned where we would be. But then there's also a lot of practical things as well that happen, isn't there? Mm. So you've got good fond memory of childhood then? Yeah. Yeah. I think being an only child has its challenges, but I think my mum mentioned to me not so long ago actually. She said, "Oh, I think it'd have been nice if you'd have had a brother or sister." I said, "Oh, I've never really thought that I really wished that I could have had a brother or a sister." Mm-hmm. And I think as well, we only know what we know, don't we? Yeah, of course, yeah.
And I think for me, it was only that kind of over the recent years as well. You know, our parents just do our best for us in the way they know. There is no handbook. No. There's no handbook, is it? And I think generally parents do their best. Speaking from my experience, anyway, there's lots of different parents out there, but I know they did exactly what they thought was best, and that means a lot and goes a long way.
Of course,
if I've got things that I do or there's ways that I am because of that, I know that their intentions were good, so that's all that matters.
In school then, Jo, were you as physically apt as you've gone on to be? Were you as interested in physiology? Were you strong? Were you winning things on sports day? Did you have that kind of kudos as a student, you know? Were you known to be physical and fit?
So there's one thing that we haven't mentioned at all, which is quite a big part of my life, which is that I danced from the age of 3. So I went to ballet classes at the age of 3, and I danced, the whole way through. So academically, I wouldn't have ever really described myself as hugely academic, but I got through it all.
Yeah, but is that because you just weren't as interested, I think?
Maybe. My mum always said she never had to ask me to practice my dancing, but like to sit down and write stuff down was never. I've always feel like I've naturally been a bit more practical. And the other thing I liked at school as well was the languages, because it's not so much writing, is it? It's more doing. So yeah, I enjoyed that. For some reason, I didn't do any GCSE PE or anything physical like that. It was languages and nothing physical there. But I danced from the age of 3 all the way through. And then I didn't go to university. I did 3 years at dance college. So I got a diploma in dancing, which I loved. There's a lot of competition. And,
I was going to say, all that anxiety. We must have been in competitions around the country, I'm sure. And
so there's a lot of competition in terms of getting jobs, is what I mean.
Okay.
I didn't compete in any competitions as such, but I suppose auditions could be referred to there as competitive. The anxiousness, I suppose you could call it, came more like if I got a job, what's going to happen if I get anxious and then feel like I can't do something. And I suppose I've always referred to it as an attack of panic. I've got a friend who's a therapist. She used to I think she calls it a surge of emotion. Just don't call it a panic attack, call it a surge of emotion, because it just puts you hear the word panic attack and it just
the word
sounds
panic.
It doesn't really lend itself to helping you out of it, does it?
No.
And they're so irrational. It's such an irrational period. I mean, the thoughts that I went through over the weekend is just like, well, what if I can't do this? What if I can't do that? And I remember having one years ago, and was fortunate enough to get this job in Hong Kong. And I can remember sitting in my flat. My mum had come to visit, and I was just crying and crying and crying. So, even if I get myself to Hong Kong, I'm never going to be able to leave the hotel room when I get there. And I've never forgotten saying that. That makes no sense. Even if I get to Hong Kong, I won't be able to leave the hotel room when I get there. That's how irrational these things are.
So did you know that at the time you're saying it? Are you kind of having this dual kind of paradoxical thing happening where you've got these feelings and you're expressing them, but then sort of the other part of you is like, this is irrational, and you're kind of in that space where
I can be, especially now, because now I'm fortunate enough to have met my partner, got a warm, safe place to live. The future's really bright, as Goggins will tell you, that you need to be prepared that could be pulled from under your feet at any time. But that's why we do the training, why we keep ourselves strong. So I could be sat I can be sat on the sofa at night. We've got a full tummy from dinner, just chilled out watching the sofa, and I'm like trembling, panicking. And and I can say to you, I know I'm anxious, and you get the obvious question someone asks you is, what are you anxious about? So I'm not. That's just a feeling I'm experiencing, but it's not connected to anything.
Wow.
That's my experience of it anyway. I guess it's unique for a lot of people. And I started to say this earlier, but I didn't. I saw it written somewhere, and again, I don't remember the exact words, but the way someone tried to describe it who doesn't know anything about anxiety is that you can be in bed under your warm duvet, cozy as anything, but what your brain and your body is telling you is that you're in the most dangerous situation you could ever be in. And it doesn't match. Those two things aren't in the same place.
I can't, it's such a, and you mentioned earlier, it's, there's a kind of feels like a real movement around mental health and anxiety that seems to me to correlate more and more with like social media and the way that we're all trying to sort of meet expectations of everything around us all the time. How has it been for you then going into the field of fitness where you're meeting people all the time, and those people are your responsibility to a degree, physically, injuries, the whole thing, you've got to instill a belief in them and for them to feel confident that how's that been? Does that empower you, or does that add a weight to you?
The fitness industry and the coaching industry is one of the most bizarre industries I've worked in, because my job now is talking about habits, food, exercise, which is something that we kind of all do every day. and it's something that I consider most days, but then also it's my job. But coming back to your point of that, so when I first started training, there's also something else which we haven't got onto yet, which is my qualifications in Neuro-Linguistic Programming, which I'm really passionate about, which I don't know if you're familiar with NLP at all.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So I'm midway through my master practitioner at the moment, which I'm very proud of.
Wow. That's amazing.
So I've learned about sort of feeling congruent, which is feeling aligned, and how to address when you're not feeling aligned. And my eating habits aren't great. They're okay. What marker do you mark it against? Mine against someone else's. I think I eat too much chocolate.
Oh right, well I'm in that boat,
which makes me feel not always congruent to my clients. Originally, when I first started PTing, and I had this battle in my head. This is a really long-winded way of answering your question, but I will get there.
That's why we're on a podcast.
So, what I learned quite quickly by what I learned on some of my early NLP courses and PTing is that I don't have to be doing everything textbook to be able to provide this service. But one of the things that was important to me is that as long as I'm working on myself, as long as I'm practicing what I'm preaching, then I feel congruent. So even though I'm perhaps not doing everything as the textbook says, so for example, if you go back to like 5 a day, for example, so even if I don't eat my 5 a day, as long as I'm working towards eating my 5 a day, that makes me feel like I'm doing what I should be doing and feels like I've got the right to help other people. Mm-hmm. So as long as I'm continually working on improving myself, that's what makes me feel like I have got the right to support other people.
And I think that's a really important point, because the textbook, it's easy to look at what we should be doing. You know, we all know sleep is really important. We all know that sugar is terrible. We all know that alcohol is terrible. Mm. But they're also fun or tasty or good, or it's fun sometimes to meet an old friend and end up just staying up till 3 a.m. and drinking.
That's good for the soul.
Exactly. So this where you've arrived at this idea, which is something that I've picked up as well along the way, which is, so long as you are moving towards, holistically, you're moving towards, and you recognise, you're moving towards doing the things that you know are healthy and good, but you recognise that, every now and again, I've had it this weekend. I was just saying to my mate at a barbecue, I found myself in the biscuits the last couple of days, like, I don't know what, my wife's putting the children to bed, I'm squaring up downstairs, rebuilding the house after the children have smashed it to pieces. I finally get it done. I'm listening to a podcast maybe, or watching something on YouTube, and I'm making a herbal tea for me and my wife to go up to the upstairs, basically like 8:30 or 9, and wait for the kettle to boil, and I'm watching, and I end up opening the door, grabbing a biscuit. I'll just have a milk, whatever it is, a milk loaf biscuit, whatever, and I end up having like 6 biscuits. And the first one was quite tasty, and then I'm just like in beast mode of just like eating these things, and I'm having this thing in my head play out where I know, number one, right, there's nothing beneficial happening here now after that first biscuit. Yeah. The first biscuit, which was tasty and kind of like now I'm on like number 6, and I'm opening and I'm looking in again, I'm thinking, what's going on here? But then the other part of me is like, but I'm not doing this every day, and kind of that battle you have between, you've got to live as well, and I'm not saying standing at the kitchen cupboard eating biscuits is like living your best life.
I don't know.
But recognising sometimes, because if you cancel everything out, if you never have a drink, or if you never stop at a chippy, or if you never allow yourself that biscuit or wherever it is, I think so long as you know that the alarm clock's going off at 5:45 in the morning and off you go, and you do, because if you eat them biscuits and then you skip the training in the morning because you don't feel up to it because you're full of whatever it is, then things start to slide, don't they?
Yeah.
Just being aware of yourself.
Yeah. it goes deeper than the biscuit. There's something really deep about the biscuits, isn't there? And that's why I did the NLP, because you got people that turn up to the door of the gym, right, I want to lose 2 stone, and you say to them, right, do this amount of movement, and it's more, you say it in a much more understandable and more detailed way than this, but right, you need to be looking at this exercise and this with your food, and then that's it. They're having McDonald's for breakfast and off they go, and they don't do anything. And that's why I did the NLP qualifications, because it's why don't we do the things that we say? I say to you, I want to eat less chocolate. Well, I can tell you now that I probably won't eat any less chocolate today because I said that. So, and people turn up, and I was just banging my head against it. Well, I was like, how can someone sit there? They're saying I want to lose 2 stone. They know they might need to lose 2 stone. I mean, being on a podcast is great because that opens a whole nother can of worms. I mean, the body positivity movement and all that is huge as well. There's just so many things you can talk about on this topic. But when someone sits there crying, saying, I need to lose 2 stone, and I think there are some people that may need to lose 2 stone. Yep. Some people may not need to lose 2 stone. I think there's a sweet spot for everyone of mental and physical health. And I think that's a nice, unique crossroads for everyone. I think it's important to address that. One person's 10 stone might be healthy and someone else's 10 stone might be really unhealthy, you know. So I think that's really unique for the mind and body to meet in the right place. But when someone is sat in front of you and they know that they need to lose 2 stone for their health because they're not healthy, they may have been to the doctors, they may have been told that their health is deteriorating because of how much body fat they're carrying with them, and you advise them what to do and they just don't do it. What is underlying? That's only what's going on in here. That's nothing to do with not knowing how to do it. And that's what I'm passionate about.
So the NLP, when you sort out the NLP courses, was that solely professional to help clients, or was there a bit of that helping yourself as well with the anxiety and understanding habitual behaviours and what underpins some of our thought processes and cognitive
underpinning? Yes. Anxiety, no. I always make sure that I seek out a therapist if I need that support, and that's another thing that gives me a bit more confidence with my clients, because I know that I've got some really close friends, a really good support network, and I know where to turn if I need help for that. I might empathise with clients and say that I understand and I know what they're going through. But I try not to put on them for any
as you
health
said
and
in
support.
The beginning.
Yeah, because
but I think people watching, Joe, and current clients of yours, I'm sure, will probably be really quite empowered by knowing that you are fighting a good fight as well and pulling it off.
Yeah.
Because in the face of everything, you know, we all have assumptions, don't we? And we arrive at kind of judgments and assumptions because that's how we survive. That's how we have to navigate our environments.
Yeah.
And it's easy to look at somebody who's in a good body, you know, who's at the gym on time, always on time, and think, oh, I've just got it all together. But it's not necessarily always the case.
Some of them might argue with you that I'm always on time. Timekeeping's not my strong point, although I am getting better at it. The NLP helps to, underpin is the word I heard you say there. So NLP looks at, so you've got Neuro-Linguistic Programming. So neuro is looking at what's going on in the brain. And I've still got a lot to learn. So if there's any people that know more about it than me out there, they might be able to help you a bit more. But so you've got neuro, which is the brain. You've got linguistics, which is languages. Important to recognise there that that's the language that you use with yourself and with others, because most people have an internal dialogue going on. Yeah. And then programming, so that's more the habitual side. The fact, if I say to you, I'm not very good at timekeeping, so let's look at that as an example. If I say to you, I'm always late, an I am statement is I am. That's
you framed
when
yourself.
We say I am, that is strong. That's at an identity level. And so if someone says, "Oh, I'm overweight," well, how? Oh. Or if they change that sentence to, "I'm working towards the best version of me," every single time they say it, that can be powerful stuff.
Well, it's funny, you know. We won't digress too far, but there's a lot of NLP happening professionally in the environment at the moment, in the world. with messages and essentially programming a way of thinking about how things are at the moment. So it's really interesting. I've been looking into that, so it's sort of plays into what you're saying now. But in terms of the individual one-on-one, so when you're talking to a client and you've got a girl, and you said something earlier that struck me, which was, if somebody's saying to you, look, I need to lose 2 stone because I want to be healthy. Excuse me, Joe. That's very different to a lot of us who maybe want to lose weight because we're going on holiday or we've got a wedding, or, so that the very reason itself, how do you find that plays into when you're dealing with people?
It's a good question.
Does it change sort of how driven somebody is? If it's, because it would seem to me that there's something superficial and there's something sort of untruthful to ourselves when we want to just kind of get in shape for potentially photographs on holiday, as opposed to really knowing, shit, I need to get healthy. I would imagine there'd be more drive, but I don't know. So
I always try to shift my clients' goals on to try for it to be health focused or performance related, as opposed to a number on a scale or a photo. If someone comes with a photo and says, I used to look like this is what I want to look like, quite quickly I'm like, what was happening for you to look like that? Were you getting up early and going to the gym? Were you disciplined? What is it about that photo? Not the measurements, not the number that was on the scale. What was happening around that time? Did you love your job? Did you have a partner? Was your relationship happy? Were you sleeping well? What was happening? Let's get that listed out, because that's what comes
really
together.
Yeah.
And in terms of the holiday photographs, so for yourself, it might be important for you to have that image on that photo, and that might be something that drives you. For someone else, they may be wanting to search, like for myself, where I am personally at the moment is I want to find a spot where I'm eating well and just see what I look like. I look the way that I look, but I know that I'm not happy with the amount of chocolate that I eat. And that won't be a shock to most of my clients, because I've always chatted about that. But what I want is to be, I'm not striving for a 6-pack. I'm not striving for these things. What I'm striving for is a healthy relationship with food. So that's a behavior related outcome. So a behaviour related outcome is what I'm working towards. If you like a photo that you've got and that's what you want, that's your drive. And we're all so unique. So I think going all the way around that, what I have to find with my clients, or what I work towards finding with my clients, is what's important to them. Someone was saying, I just want to get to this way. I want to get to this way. I said, well, it's not happening. So let's work out, let's talk more about that. Actually, they were just going to that number because that's the number they thought they should be, because a few people around them had suggested that they might be towards that number. They weren't towards that. Said, right, well, let's forget that number. Let's just focus on healthy eating habits. Worked on healthy eating habits, and the number came down anyway. When we were working towards the number coming down, it didn't come down. And then when we stopped and just realised why we were working towards that number and said, well, let's not, then the number started coming down.
That's interesting. And do you see correlations with people who are on this quest to try and get healthy? Is there a correlation with success on that quest, with the good sleep, the routine sleep, the happy relationship? Let's not even get into the food and the exercise, but, the things that we take for granted, like sleep, like just a simple relationship that's just not volatile, that's not doesn't hold a sadness because, maybe it ran out of love a long time ago, but so many of us, we sort of stay in these safe environments, don't we? Do you ever see a correlation between where people are kind of more settled in a life, sort of seeing out their quest to get healthy, or is that?
It's not something I think we all sort of have, I don't know, me and my mum definitely do. We have these sort of like onboard surveys. I don't know. Do you sort of like hold a little survey about things? One of the things we've often laughed about is in a random survey is wondering how many people are eating when they leave the supermarket car park.
Right, yeah.
Think, I just have a bit of this. That's one of my other random surveys that me and my mum like to do. And amongst those surveys, I haven't done what you just described.
Okay.
But what I think is if we can get to find out someone's beliefs, core values, sense of higher purpose. So things like, does someone want to become healthy to become a parent? Does someone want to be, I want to be the healthiest I can be so that I can be the truest personal trainer and coach in my belief system. I think if we can get to beliefs, values, sense of higher purpose, that's when you get those things right. I think if you can get those things right, that's when you get
everything else falls in place.
Yeah. So one of the NLP refers to things called models. So modeling excellence. So you look at the way, to keep this in a really simple term, if I decided I wanted to be the fastest 100-meter runner that there is, in really simple terms, I could look at everything that Usain Bolt does and think, right, I'm going to do everything right. He gets up at 4 o'clock every morning, hops around in a circle 3 times, and I could put all of these things into place to try and make myself be the fastest 100-meter runner that there is. The hopping around in 3 circles might make all the difference. It might not make any difference. So we can model what someone does and do something well. So you might say to me, or I might see that you do something well. Say, well, just talk me through that. How did you do that? So then I think, I don't do that way, so I can do it. So that's quite I hope that sounded simple, way of explaining modelling, just looking at the way people do things well. And one of the models looks at something called neurological levels. So you might look, if I need to do something well, the environment might need to be right. A podcast, for example, right, I need a studio, I need it to be warm, so the person's comfortable. You'd list all of those things that you need. Then you go on to skills and capabilities and behaviours, what needs to be right. And then you get onto things like beliefs and values. That's important. If you don't believe you can do this, we wouldn't be here.
Of course.
I'm here. I'm not running a podcast. I'm here as a guest because I believe I can be a good guest here, and bring something to your show. And then you've got you go up beliefs and values and sense of this higher purpose. As what is your sense of higher purpose to get you in the studio? Without any of those things being lined up, we wouldn't be flourishing. We wouldn't be. You wouldn't be hosting a great podcast.
I like the way you frame that. And so when you're taking in different clients over a course of years, do you start to see patterns then in human beings? Do you start to recognise, this person's going to be in this category and it's going to require more effort in this area, or this person might not make it, or this person, can you start to see patterns like that? So that I just described, if you take any one of those items out, something won't flourish, something won't be congruent. So if you, and we hold them all at different levels. So environment is we hold quite loosely. Generally, it might be more important to some people than another. But if for example, you just suddenly took this studio away, it'd be relatively easy to replace the studio. If something, not your confidence or your belief system about being good at a podcast, that might be harder to repair than building a new studio, right? Right. So it's not so much that there's a pattern, but that piece, it's like that. I see that as a jigsaw. If there's one of those pieces of those jigsaws not there, I just need to work out which piece of the jigsaw with that client. I just need to keep going through that, working out which piece of this jigsaw. Do they know how to lift weights correctly? Do they know how to move? Do they believe they can do it? Which is probably the padstone, I would imagine, is it? The belief.
yeah, I love talking about beliefs and yeah, I go through it. And again, what you said earlier, you know, do I do the NLP for myself or for others? It starts at home, and then I can filter it in with my clients. I love it.
It must be fascinating going through the levels of learning this stuff. And whereabouts are you with it at the moment?
So at the moment, I'm midway through my master practitioner. So anyone that knows about NLP, well, not that knows about it, but anyone that's qualified in it will recognise that qualification. That's kind of the last major qualification you do before you then went on to teaching people NLP.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Teaching people how to do what I'm doing. Yeah. So teaching people to be coaches.
I see. So how long have you been doing that? And have you seen sort of and felt real sort of measured change in what you're doing, which must be fascinating?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the personal training qualification was okay. I knew I needed that. That was part of the skills and capabilities element you heard me speaking about. But the NLP is, I love it. I can remember going on the first course was just a 1-day introduction, and I came away and my mind was blown. I was like, that's me. That is, I love to know that all that stuff is going on in our head, that we're hearing things, we're filtering things and skipping pieces of information.
Yeah, how much does bias play a part? You know, our own kind of safe biases, our anchor points that where we, you know.
It's infinite the amount that you could chat about all of that. There's so many layers to it, and
it's different for everybody. It's just a totally different challenge for everybody, never mind yourself.
Yeah.
God, yeah. So as we stand here or sit here today, you're recovering from the 4x4x48.
Yeah.
We are opening up into the world. Yeah. In a couple of days, I think.
Yeah, it's Monday. Yeah, Monday. Well, it depends when this goes out and stuff. But yeah, it's Monday the 12th. So what are we today? Tuesday. Is it Tuesday? Yeah.
We're having one of those lost years, aren't we? Lost
year,
Tuesday,
lost
week, bank
Tuesday.
Holiday, bank
so
year.
So it's Tuesday today, and things are opening up on Monday. Yeah. So back in the gym on Monday.
Right, and you are back in the gym then, so you...
Yeah, starting at a brand new gym on Monday.
So it'd be really interesting to the psychology of everybody, and a bit like January, I guess, where...
Yeah, I think so.
Everybody wants to just get out and get on, but the difference being, there really will be a sense of wanting to get out, and maybe more than a Christmas or this year's a new year, an actual sense of a year of like, whoa, this was crazy on so many levels just outside coming in, but then internally a lot's happened for people individually. Couples, relationships, a lot of change. Yeah. So it would be really interesting to see. And as you mentioned, the mental health thing, because what I find interesting, what you're saying there with the NLP, for your job in training people and learning, how to become healthy and how to look after your body. But it just applies to everything, doesn't it, NLP, really? To understand, like you say, the parts of the jigsaw of who you are and how you operate. Yeah. When you apply that to everything. Yeah. That's just, it's powerful.
I love that element of it, the NLP, that exactly what you just said. It applies to everything. So everything that we see, filter, look, when I say filter, it's like what information do we decide to hold on to and get rid of? Yep. What does our brain distort and cast aside? Yeah, it does apply to everything. And I'm curious to see what happens. Yeah, January is typically... have got that time of year. I heard somewhere recently that we have more hope on a Monday and we have more hope at the start of a year. I thought that was really cute.
I'll hang on to that. Yeah, we'll take that.
Apparently. Typically in a sort of business sense, I suppose, I've noticed that January isn't always that busy because people have just paid for Christmas. So it's usually February where things start picking up business-wise. That's not to say people don't start changing their habits in January. I'm curious to see what happens when the gyms open on Monday, because will there be a period of time where people are just dipping their toe in? I'm kind of hoping that overall people want to take a bit better care of their health, but I don't think it's just going to be a switch and people are just going to be out there. I just can't imagine on Monday that everywhere's going to be heaving. Can you?
That was a big breath. There's so much going on there, though, isn't there? I was just thinking it over there as you were kind of throwing up that thought. It was. I wonder how many people were at a gym who've got kids who had to get the kids and take them here and put them there, and then drive to the gym and then park and then get in the gym and then be a bit anxious about, oh God, I'm not doing it right and I'm on the wrong machine. And oh God, who have got used to maybe doing something at home now. You know, where they haven't got to get in the car and got to drive anywhere, and I've actually found that, I've got this discipline where I actually do this class. Because that's something that happened to me a few years ago when you mentioned about the studio before we went live, you know. This ended up being a home gym, and I stopped going out to gyms because my third child was born, and my business was kicking along, and it meant that me getting out of the house and being gone for like 3 hours, 2 evenings a week was like, I was missing 2 nights of basically seeing my children, well, two days and 2 nights really, because I would be in and then straight out. And then I thought, well, I'll just start training here. And it's hard on your own. It's really hard. But YouTube is powerful. You know, you can get on and do a class with somebody. And I started to do that. So that makes me think, I wonder how, there must be a small proportion, I would imagine, of people that might end up just training at home. Yeah,
I've got a few clients that have just gathered themselves some kit over this period of time. They've got some quite nice little setups at home. And people change and people like different things, don't they? Some people are desperate to get back to the gym. Some people are desperate to get back to group exercise. Everyone's different, aren't they? And we change and evolve as the times go by. So,
and I wonder how many people will also be kind of really now anxious and really now quite scared of the possibility that, oh God, what if everything is dangerous? If people are dangerous, I imagine there's going to be a big element of that. Yeah,
I mean, going back to something we were talking about before, 12 months of the media telling you to stay at home, and
NLP.
sort of not the media telling you to stay at home and not go outside and not do all of that. One of the things I said about being anxious over these last 12 months is that I'm grateful that I know what it is, because being short of breath, being scared, not being able to rationalise with something in my own head, experiencing that more and more over the last 12 months is, I've said to my friends, I'm grateful that I know what this is, because it's scary enough when you know this is irrational, this is anxiety. I'm a bit concerned about the people that don't know what that is. I know how terrifying that is to be in that, and I've had treatment, help, and I know exactly what I'm experiencing. I feel, I've said it more than once, I feel lucky that I know exactly what it is that I'm going through, because I've got a feeling with this now, mental health is getting battered around and being spoken about more and more, rightly so, because we've just had 12 months in the media. One of the things, I mean, you'd be here for the rest of the day if we were going to be getting into all of that. The one thing I just felt about all of the media over the last 12 months, just thought, they've got that platform, just have a 2-minute slot at the end of every news report, please, just saying, try this. Just something. I just wish there could have been something for every news broadcast just to lift people up.
How? Again, another big sign. Right? And again, we won't go too crazy, but we do. This podcast, we've documented this whole situation. We only started at the beginning of last year, 2020. And we documented all the way through, week to week to week to week, and we've covered this, and it will be amazing to look back at in the future, I'm sure. All these different people with these different perspectives during the different phases of 2020, you know. I have found it extraordinary that the media have taken... I found it extraordinary, although not a surprise, you know, that the media haven't tried to encourage people to just be healthy.
Yeah.
You know, do some exercise, providing circumstances for people to exercise, providing information about certain foods, certain supplements, zinc, vitamin D, you know, simple things that are, you know,
just some words, just some positive words across the bottom of the screen. I would have gone for.
Yeah, you know.
I just think they've got a platform there. I just think, right, they're giving us all of this information. I just think even just 1 minute at the end of if you've got to give us all this information, yeah, okay, give us it all. Do what you got to do. Please, just 1 minute at the end, just 1 minute, or even just something, a picture in the corner saying, I mean, when did all the keep calm and carry on? That was always, there's been nothing, yeah.
It changed to hands, face and space.
I know. That's the one thing that makes me sad. I took it upon myself. I think I watched the report when we went into the initial lockdown, and I don't think I watched the news again. What date was that? That was March. I don't think I watched the news again until July.
More power, Joe. No, I mean, talking of anxiety and mental health, I mean, the media's narrative, the continuity of this fear has been immobilizing, to say the least, and in the face of some really simple advice, as you point out. I think one point they said there was a thing that had to be removed. BBC published something talking about joggers.
Oh, was it?
Joggers.
I saw something.
And what a high risk.
Yeah.
That if you were to walk past a jogger, the high risk that you were going to be, receive a disease or a virus from the jogger, and that had to be retracted. The advertising agency or whatever it was, I forget now, but I remember reading that and thinking, thank God for that, because that did seem to have a little bit of an effect on the language being used, and because I felt it. I was out running, literally dog walkers that I would see every week. All of a sudden, you could just feel a little bit of like, unsure.
And if that's all you've experienced, then you're lucky, because we've been out running and people have we've been running. We've been on the road and people on the pavement have turned to face the wall as we've run past. And that's happened on more than one occasion, and it's not been the same person.
So damaging for us as people, isn't it? As a community.
That's out in the fresh air. Yeah, that is.
That's the power abnormal. Of those words. That's the power of those words, and the from a government that I'm sure trying to help us. I'm sure trying to do the right things. But at this point in 2021, with the internet and with all the knowledge we've got, it just doesn't seem to add up that we haven't been encouraged to actually look after our health. Instead, we're given, medical procedures to, and it just doesn't seem to fit, does it? And without
going into loads and loads of politics, you're right. I just don't understand why there can't have been something simple on there to say, just try this, or why not just find a chair, stand up and sit down, if you can see how many you can do, and then do a couple more. It doesn't need to be anything dangerous or complicated, does it?
No, it doesn't. And it's been for podcast world and alternative kinds of shows where hopefully people maybe have taken some, as I say, we've done it the whole time. We've been out walking. I have seen, and certainly initially, lots of people out walking. Yeah. And actually like walking and looking and pointing, and there's a bird, and is that an oak tree? And that was amazing. Yeah. Like, and it felt like initially people were, neighbours, hello, and people were actually kind of slowly, that I don't know if I've sort of switched off to it, but it sort of slowly came back kind of quite internal again and closed off. I'm kind
of hoping that was the, hopefully the seasons, because the first one was in the summer. And it was, so if I try to be really optimistic about what you've just said, it was because it went from summer into winter.
And wasn't it so, that was something, I think, timing is everything with everything. When we went into lockdown initially in March or April, whenever it was, the weather was like off the charts, beautiful. Yeah. Everybody was in their gardens, kind of like, okay, this is weird, but we're in our gardens. And that natural thing that happens with sunlight, and people have got barbecues on and music, and okay, well, this is weird and this is scary, but at least we've got this. This is nice. I think I said it at the time, had it have been a different weather setup, because it could quite easily have been sleet and snow and grey and wet and horrible at that time of year. I think we'd have had a different mindset at the time. And I'll hang on to that as well, the seasons, because it feels like that now, doesn't it? It feels certainly like, there's again language of a roadmap and all these things, that if we do these things then we're going to arrive somewhere normal, but actually it feels more to me like spring is coming around.
people are hopeful again.
Yeah.
And there's more daylight, and it does feel a bit nicer again. There was a really long period over the winter where there was no date though, wasn't there? Even though we went through the whole of last summer, I think there was always an end date. Whereas I think through the winter that was missing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I didn't.
And the Christmas debacle
I didn't follow it closely, so I can't be exactly sure. I think if I remember correctly, there was less of any markers. I think as human we quite like those natural markers in things, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. It keeps us on the train, as it were. Yeah. Well, listen, Joe, I've really appreciated this time from you today, because I know, like we said, it's 48 hours from the 48 hours. Yeah. I'm sure people will link you in underneath here. I'll get all your links from you, and we'll send people over to the page is still going, Just Giving. Everything's still live.
I think they're live for quite a while. You didn't have to select an end date, but the Just Giving pages. Yeah, there's a team page, and then there's my personal page on there as well. So excellent. All goes in the same pot.
There's some bits on your Instagram, some little vlogs while you're actually out on the run, which we'll point people to as well.
Yeah, and I've got to say, one of the things that we spoke a little bit about it. I've got time to carry on.
Of course you have. Yeah.
I'm quite passionate about the no filter. I know that was one of the really kind of early hashtags, no filter. But yeah, I was thinking, what's this going to look like when I go to post it? Like, it's just going to look horrendous out running at 4:00 in the morning. And yeah, I get quite passionate about that hashtag, no filter. No filter. The no filter hashtag, because there's so much, isn't there, on social media of it looking good and looking like that. And I do try to keep things. I want someone to see me in person and think, oh yeah, that's the person I saw on the social media.
Society needs that. We really need that. And again, we could go right down a rabbit hole here, where we've created Aidan and I, just before you came, we were listening to, I'm listening to Carl Jung at the moment, Memories, Dreams, Reflections, and he's talking about, and this is like, he's writing this 120 years ago, whenever it is. Yeah. And there's this little segment that we just listened to that's just like, he's talking about now, and how we live in the future and not in the now, and then how the now still needs to be respected and revered, because our DNA is still catching up with the now, never mind this fast forward into the future. And, and he's, like I say, it's 100 odd years ago he's written this. Yeah. And little did he know that we would be now in this thing where we're sort of recording ourselves and making ourselves look amazing and saying things that maybe we wouldn't just say. Maybe we're saying them
to other people,
to dress them up and to sort of lend this profile of oneself out to the world. And that's happening in all these different exchanges, in all these different ways. It's happening on adverts. It's been happening on adverts forever. Adverts, people, even the news, Good Morning TV, before you get the action, people are getting their makeup done, they've got the transcript, they've been told where to go, what not to say, you've got 7 minutes to, excuse me, so everything's kind of in the filter. We filtered everything, and that's why I love doing these chats. I love just going off wherever we go and finding out that people are human, and that we're all, for you especially today, and I'll give you a real sense of power in being as honest as you've been about your anxiety, because you have said yourself today that's not something that you've really spoken about, and I'm sure lots of people who know you and clients and people you've worked with will see that and take something really strong away from that.
Yeah, I hope so. It's not something I'm ashamed of. It's just when I've done that work on myself, I know that it's important to the service I deliver, that it's something that I'd seek out the support I need for that. And the same as when clients come to me for personal training, that's what they've seeked out. And if I think they need help in other areas, then I would guide them in the same way that I've been guided towards the help that I've needed. But we'd be here for ages talking about no filters, but it's that whole social, it's a madness. What that's doing to our minds.
For you ladies especially as well, and again, that's a conversation. Are we allowed to have a conversation? Are we even allowed to talk about, you're a lady and I'm a Jesus Christ. Yeah. But it's clear from the stats, from the data, especially with young ladies, adolescent kids, girls, the pressure is enormous, even from peer groups, friendship groups. You read in stuff, as I often do, because I've got, kids. What's the future look like? I'm interested in this stuff, and you even see within friendship groups, in a WhatsApp group or whatever, a messenger group, where with even in that safe place, if you like, where it's the 5 girls and not everybody in the year, there's things happening in there that are difficult for that expectation, you know, of who am I and who am I in this group and who am I in these pictures and who am I in this year group. You know, it seems impossible actually for young people when I think about how they must have to deal with.
Is it young? I mean, I feel like I'm quite.
No, you're right. You're right. You are right.
I think there's a lot of pressure around that for everyone. The one thing that rather than just thinking that is that things are sort of going in a negative direction, I like to kind of think about the past and just the general timeline that we're on, because as we sit here and have this conversation with headphones on, with a microphone, with a camera, there must have been points in time in the past where people have thought, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. And this is like, for example, things like women's rights or all different things in the past. People must have sat and had a conversation thinking, where's this going to lead? Where's this going to lead? I guess we'll just come to a point where I think it's important to respect the different. This will take us somewhere else, whether it's good, whether it's bad. If it makes something really negative, things will get put in place to protect people. Things will get. If the social media and all of the filters, all of that, then something has to kind of go wrong or be negative before new regulations get put in place. Before you can't make the regulations before it exists, can you? No, not unless you're talking about something else.
But no, I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's like we have to learn on the job, don't we?
Yeah.
And the goodwill's out, and I like the way that you're moving towards positive, and that's something that I try and do a lot with the techno stuff. I do get a little bit freaked out because I do try and look for the positive, you know. Certainly in my later part of my life, from, you know, growing up part from 30 onwards, definitely can see that the glass is half full, and it's just miraculous that we're even here, never mind anything else,
and we're here for such a short period of time as well. It's good. I think it's good for the mind to sort of delve off on these tangents that we are. It's also really important to think, right, this is great, we're in here, it's colourful, it's great, we're smiling, we're chatting about things, we're feeling stimulated by stuff, you know. That's important to appreciate, as well as the content of what we're saying. Is like, what are all these filters going to do to the whole world?
Yes.
How are people? What's this going to do to mental health? Well, actually, we're here. We're lucky to be talking about it and finding support from each other about these concerns. That's a great thing as well.
That's a lovely way to bring this home. And for a moment there, I was back at the biscuit cupboard there, thinking about how bad is these biscuits. Well, listen. That's lovely. Thank you, Jo, for your time today.
Oh, thanks.
We will point everybody to your links at the bottom of this video. And you take care. And I hope that this year goes on to be something that we can grab hold of and live.
Yeah. And if not, we'll learn from it and do it better in the next one.
Like it. Thank you, Doreen.
Cheers. Thank
Peace.
you.